Welcome to episode number 275 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us, just search for us online, Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording live on YouTube on July 14, 2019. Plenty of things to talk about this week, including Area 51 raid, Google all up in my bidnaz, Pittsburgh powered moon landing, Pinterest videos, Google Shoelace, I'm sorry, Soffa Sans, text message reviews, what Amazon owns, dangerous dongles, and a lot more. But we kick it off with the best story of the week, and BL always has that honor. BL, what was the best story?
Well, I think that the story about the raid that's coming up on Area 51, looking for aliens on September 20th, is hilarious. It's a joke, but that has not stopped 400,000 people from signing up for it. It's a Facebook event, and Area 51 is the notorious place in Nevada that's been the subject of controversy over the existence of aliens for decades, and it was just made public in 2013. So they just even admitted that it existed. My friend Peter Robbins, who is a ufologist, wrote a book about Area 51, and so it can be taken very seriously, but this is a joke. So they're going to see them aliens, and it says on the Facebook page, "We will meet up at Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and coordinate our entry. If we Naruto run, we can move faster than their bullets." And Naruto running is about an anime character, a Japanese anime character, who runs at full speed with his hands behind his back. So if you needed any indication that this was a joke that people seem to have missed, the Facebook page is called "Shit Posting 'Cause I'm in Shambles." And yet 400,000 people apparently didn't see that, or who knows. But it's a perfect storm of two parts of internet culture: the true believer, conspiracy theorists, and the gleeful shit posters, and hundreds of thousands of people with comments, that have blueprints of the base and requesting drone or Facebook Live coverage of the event. And so it's a classified military base 150 miles outside of Las Vegas. And the CIA has only acknowledged it since 2013. But just last week, there was an article in the New York Times about the fact that the government has been briefed on the existence of UFOs and that this should be taken more seriously than it has. And I've actually attended several films and meetings and lectures, and I am a UFO believer, and I personally have seen one. And I got to tell you, in Pinehurst, New York, which is the UFO capital of the Northeast, my cousin and I were lost one night in the darkest road you ever saw in your life. And we thought, we'll never get out of here alive. And there in the sky was this UFO. And so we finally found this diner, the Pinehurst, New York diner. And we went in there, and it's all decorated with little green men and spaceships. And we're like, what the fuck? And they told us that this is where people come, and there's all kinds of videos of the thing that we saw. So it's a joke, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't really have any comment on that, except that I saw that in your show notes. I saw that you had this story in the show notes, and we don't ever talk about aliens. So it gives me an opportunity to tell you, I've been reading this book. It's Martians and Madness by Frederick Brown. He's a pulp fiction writer. I'm sure I read a lot of his short stories, science fiction stories, when I was younger. But I picked this up because it's a collection of his novellas or novels, and there's one novel in there that's titled "Martians Go Home." And the premise of the story is that we are invaded by Martians, invade the Earth, but they're obnoxious as hell. I mean, they're not hard, they're not menacing or anything. They don't hurt us. They can't hurt us. They're just really annoying.
People just very funny. That's very funny. Well, I mean, I have no reason to believe they're not here. Let's put it that way. You know,
I think I'm kind of along. I've never seen any UFOs or anything, but I'm like the chances that we're not alone are greater than the chances that we're alone in the universe.
well, and also what the ufologists say is, look how different we all look. What we're going to see is not little green men. I mean, they may be tall and blonde. They may, they may be as different as we are. There's no reason to go with the science fiction description. But anyway, this just is hilarious.
They're little green men, just so you know. So do you think that Area 51 has a Google listing?
It does.
Does it?
I don't know. I didn't look.
Well, if they do, they might want to check out their listing because there are some new features that they can use on Google My Business.
Great segue, Dave.
This is a search engine marketing daily article by Lori Sullivan, who writes about the new features that they have. That Google has rolled out.
Unleashed.
Including now you can claim your short name and URL for your Google My Business listing. So previously, the URL was one of those long, ugly, unmanageable URLs that Google always gives you. Now you can actually claim your own URL and a short name with the at symbol. For referring people to your listing. You can designate a cover photo for your listing. They're introducing a dynamic photo module, so it'll be a prominent carousel slideshow module, and they're promising that captions for your photos will be coming soon, so you can tell more of a story using your photos. You'll be able to upload your logo, and if you've completed the core information on your profile, your logo will display at the top right-hand side of your profile. They're going to allow businesses to reward customers with welcome offers for the people that follow them on Google My Business, and they're introducing an incentive to keep your quality of the information high on your listing. So they're recognizing businesses that constantly deliver a great experience, whatever that means, by highlighting the top 5% of businesses per category. You'll receive a local favorite designation, which includes a physical and digital badge of honor. So that might be something that draws more attention to your listing, but some pretty cool new features. And I'm working on optimizing several Google My Business accounts right now. So I'll be playing around with that, definitely.
Me too. I'm doing that as well. And in order to do that, you have to have ownership. You can't. It's not like other things where you can just be an admin. They have to actually give you ownership of the Google My Business, which I think if it was my business, that terminology is kind of weird. But they also will let us now upload videos, which is very cool. I have that in my pro tips. But since it goes with the story, I thought I'd do it now. So next week is the 50th anniversary of the American moon landing. And, if you guys are old enough to have been there, we were children. Really babies. But Pittsburgh companies apparently made major contributions to the support system. So this is from Google Arts and Culture, and from Senator John Hines History Center. And so it's about how Pittsburgh companies made major contributions to the support systems that NASA used for the Apollo programs. And they were involved in new ideas for communication with the spacecraft and housing the spacecraft and delivering it to the launch pad. Pittsburgh-based companies contributed to the creation of the spacecraft. They built major pieces of it, aluminum and steel alloys made in Western Pennsylvania, and mills covered the Saturn V command module, Columbia, and the lunar module, Eagle. It's really cool. Small local companies, North American Rockwell, a lot of companies in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania were involved in NASA's first flight to the moon. So there's also the Smithsonian, The Day We Walked on the Moon documentary that's part of this exhibit in Google Arts and Culture. And like everything in Google Arts and Culture, if you guys are not familiar with it, I'm going to put a link to it. You can take virtual tours of museums and cities, and just extraordinary. A story a day comes through Google Arts and Culture, and this one was done by the Heinz History Center in coordination with Google Arts and Culture, and it's just fascinating. And if you weren't there the first time, you'll feel like you're there when you go into this exhibit. I'll never forget it.
Very cool. I saw something where they have, and maybe it was for this actual exhibit, but they were the lunar landing module. They took they digitized it basically with 3D photography, so you could actually feel like you're stepping inside of the lunar module, and you could see the writing on the walls of the interior of the module, or the astronauts were making calculations. So it's pretty
I
cool.
believe that NASA actually did that, and yeah, and the other thing that they did to commemorate this occasion is that NASA recreated the exact control room that there was in 50 years ago, down to the cigarette butts in the ashtrays and the soda cans on the desk. And when you look at the little teeny weeny computer screens that this was happening on, and the completely, I don't know the right word for it, antiquated equipment, and then you look at what's there now. So your visitors can actually go into that original room. It's absolutely fascinating, the whole history of it. And of course, we probably won't ever do it again unless we have a new election, but that's another story.
Well, you mentioned the tiny screens and the antiquated technology. I saw an interview with Elon Musk, who was talking about how it's amazing that we did what we did with the technology that we had to land to put somebody on the moon, and we have not made progress. We've regressed, actually,
Seriously?
technologically, since the lunar land, just based on the we've abandoned our shuttle program as a government and everything. Now it's so it was interesting interview. I'll try and dig it up and find it for the show notes. But this is no transition, except it's a cool new feature. Marketing Land's Amy Gessenhuis reports that Pinterest is now allowing us to upload video natively to the platform for brands. So businesses now have a video uploader to make it easier to do that. There's a new tab for business profiles devoted to videos. There's going to be new lifetime view video analytics, so you'll be able to get performance data on your videos. You'll also be able to schedule your video content in advance. Twitter. So you'll be able to use that. And then the videos themselves need to be 15 minutes or shorter. Or less than 2 gigabytes in size, but nice new feature for Pinterest.
Well, I was wondering if they were ever going to catch up, but Twitter announced that they're coming up with a whole new interface and lots of new features, and that's coming up in the next week or so. So we'll see when that rolls out what Twitter's doing, but maybe they'll make that update. So we all know what happened to Google Plus, and you know how heavily invested I was in Google Plus. And according to, I'm going to screw up this name, Emmanuel Gosiel at the Next Web, Google's taking another shot at a social network. After shutting down failed Google Plus in April, they're giving this social network thing, another try. It's called Shoelace because it ties things together. It's a hyper-local network for people who want to find others to join them in activities like sports and attending shows. You create a listing for an event or an activity you're participating in, and then you invite friends and strangers to join you. And it will also show you events. So I saw in the first categories, there were dogs, there were shows, there was athletics. What Google's doing right this time is making it invite only. And instead of forcing people to join like they did with Google Plus, and it's testing it in only one city, which happens to be New York City, which is right now the center of the world. And it's, it promises to help you connect with people who have the same interests. Well, Google Plus did that too. in communities. So it will make meeting new people more fun when you have more in common. Will make it easy to connect with others. It's a mobile app, which is another thing that's good about it. And they're saying it's great for people who just moved to a city. But right now it runs on Android and iOS, and it's only available in New York. And I'll put a link to where you can apply for an invite. And I, for several reasons, will give it a try. Chief among them is that I work in this area and I need to know whether there's anything there for any of my clients. But I loved Google Plus. I thought Google Plus was great. So if they get it better done this time, maybe they'll get it up and running and everybody will love it, and then they'll take it away.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to say
like they do with everything good. But it's worth another shot. And sooner or later Google does do things well. So let's see what happens this time. It's from their what is it called? It's not called Area 51. It's called Area something, where they experiment. What's it called?
20?
I forget what it's called. Yeah, but anyway, I learned about it in Peggy K's newsletter, and it's worth learning about.
They don't make apologies when they kill something good, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, but they'll be back.
Speaking of apologies, I reference my own segue. From Taylor Lorenz of The Atlantic, who tweeted a brilliant video of a kid who is dressed up as an influencer apology video at VidCon. So the kid's dressed up with this frame of a video around his face. His face sticks through the hole and there's controls for a video and everything. The title of the video says "My Apology," and the kid's going. He's got Kleenex with him. Sorry for filming a dead body. Please forgive me, and make sure to subscribe and like for a chance to give a gift card giveaway. We'll put an embed of it in the show notes. So you can
That's hilarious. That was really hilarious. So YouTube is moving giving. It's called YouTube Giving. They're moving it out of beta. This is from a Peggy K newsletter story, and back in 2018, and a year ago, they launched YouTube Giving as a way for creators to raise money for nonprofits in the U.S. And the features include fundraisers, community fundraisers, campaign matching, and a super chat for good. And the cool thing is you'll be able to donate directly to the nonprofit by clicking on a donate button right in the video. It's moving out of beta, and it's going to be, according to YouTube, available to thousands of creators in the coming months. Nothing about Google or YouTube is ever exact.
Very cool. This is also cool. We have been talking about IKEA since I'm like almost the beginning of the podcast. I found episode 31. We were talking about
a 6 years ago
crowdsourcing program. Then we've talked about the IKEA pop-up store in Japan on a train, the motivational mirror. We most recently talked about how they recreated famous living rooms, like from The Simpsons and everything, with their own catalog. So they do a lot of really creative marketing stuff. This is from a article by Demi Lee at The Verge, and they have done it again. And this time they've created a font called Soffa Sans. And it is inspired by the memes that were created from their Design Your Own Sofa Planner, which is a tool that allowed the customers to design the layouts and configurations of IKEA's couches. And once they discovered that the planner allowed for any configuration, it inspired some like Sims-like creativity from the users. So they came up with this idea based on their users' activity. IKEA worked with a digital agency to create this Soffa Sans font, and they call it the world's comfiest font. It creates a typeface out of Valentuna couches by configuring the couches for each letter in the alphabet. So they just basically, you can sectionalize these couches. So they've done it for each letter in the alphabet. You can download the font. It's free. It's available in white, blue, and gray. And the Drum reports that the Soffa Sans features 1,434 products. And if you bought it in real life, it would cost $134,500. So there you go.
For the typeface?
If you bought all of the products listed
the
in
products. My family business, my father's business, and now my brother's business, they were typographers. And so I tweeted, as the daughter of a typographer, I'm fascinated by this. That's the most popular tweet I ever did. It's been now viewed 700,000 times, which I have to assume every designer on the planet has retweeted it. I mean, it's so funny, but you never know what's going to go viral. But that tweet it's insane, but it's hilarious that they did that. Yeah. Oh, great. My idiotic neighbors are doing fireworks. I hope you won't be hearing them.
They're like a week late.
Yeah, well, tell them. Okay, well, I don't have any more good news. I'm on to bad news. So if you have more good news.
I do have more good news. This is from my own catalog of experiences. I had recently had a slow leak in one of my tires on my car. So I took it to my repair shop, TGK Automotive, and they patched the leak and had me on my way. 2 days later, I got a text from them. And the text said, Dave, this is Cody and TJ here from TGK Automotive of Chanhassen. I wanted to make sure our work on your car went well. Everything great? ? And I said, yes, thank you. And they replied, great to hear. Would you be willing to leave us a review? Here's a link to our Google page, and they include a bit.ly link. Thanks in advance. And I just thought that is such a smart tactic to use to build up your Google reviews.
Sure.
One, you're doing it a couple of days after they've left, so the customer is not on site, so you're not triggering any negative signal to Google that you're trying to solicit these. You're doing it through text, where it's sure to reach your customers. The only thing I would say is I don't know if they're using the same bit.ly link, but if they are, I would be using a different bit.ly link for each solicitation, so it doesn't tip anything off to Google, basically. But so smart, and their Google My Business profile shows it too. They've got a ton of listings. Their average listing is their average star is 4.3 stars, which I think is the exact ideal that you want for it to be credible. And they've got hundreds of them, so they're doing a good job.
So how would you make a different bit.ly link for each one?
It would take me. It looks like they're doing this for each customer. So then you just create a new bit.ly link for each customer.
No, what I'm asking you is if I put in Beyond Social Media Show in bit.ly, it doesn't give me a different link every time I do that. So how do you make sure it's different?
Yeah. Don't use bit.ly. Use a different URL shortener. If bit.ly does that, I've never noticed that.
Interesting. Okay, got more news for good news?
The worst.
Back to the worst. Okay. Amazon is in its bid to take over the planet. And so Letitia Miranda at BuzzFeed and John Brodkin at Ars Technica have done a couple of articles about all the products that Amazon owns that you probably would never imagine, because there's really few corners of retail that are untouched by Amazon at this point. Amazon's going to make up an estimated 38% of U.S. commercial market this year, according to eMarketer. And they already dominate 67% of online books, music, and videos, 46% of online computer and electronics, 45% of online toys, and 37%, this astounds me, 34% of online furniture sales. Who buys furniture on Amazon? But I guess a lot of people do. And
probably a lot more sales since Wayfair got in trouble.
Wayfair got in trouble?
Yeah,
Oh,
remember the
yes,
bad.
they did. Yes. A couple episodes ago. Yes. So, so now they have $25 billion in revenue just from Amazon Web Services last year, and they are the world's largest cloud services provider, which is, incredible for something that started as a bookstore all those years ago. So they have a really complex web of businesses that they own and subsidiaries that they make it very easy for businesses to walk into and very hard for them to walk out of. And so everything from Goodreads to Zappos to, shoes, to devices like Ring and baby clothing and educational tools for teachers, like entire math curriculums. So you might be shopping on Amazon and it's an Amazon-owned site, and you didn't even know that because it's not identified that way. Or you might be looking at an app that uses one of their services. And so BuzzFeed compiled this list of businesses, brands, and subsidiaries that are owned by Amazon, and it's absolutely astounding. It includes apparel and accessories, education, brick and mortar stores, most of which are owned by Amazon. Now they have bookstores, electronics and devices, energy sourcing, food, books, and so much more. And then Ars Technica reports that Amazon is now planning, and so is Facebook and Google, planning nationwide broadband with both home and mobile service. And they're looking for government permission to launch 3,236 broadband satellites that would cover the United States and most of the rest of the world. So, to put this in context, I was in my local hardware store last week, and I said, "How come you're the only guy, the owner? So how come you work here by yourself?" And he said, no small business can afford to hire enough people anymore because we have to keep our prices down by keeping our costs down so that we can even be open in the age of Amazon. And he said, but you watch, when all the small businesses are out of business, what you're getting now for $1 is going to cost you $3 on Amazon because they'll own that area. And you know what? I bet he's right.
Yeah, there's a great there's a great Amazon Prime video
about this.
Yeah, it's based on a Philip K. Dick story about automation. So that's I'm going to look at what I like to do is list what company owns what, so that I can understand the digital ecosphere in which I'm working. Because they're all using. I mean, Google is the same thing. Google has YouTube and everything else that they have, and what kind of signals those different channels send, and how that affects what you see and how your messages as a marketer get sent. And to whom. So it's interesting and useful to have those lists apart from the negative aspects of it.
Well, they don't play clean because a couple of episodes ago I was talking about the counterfeits on Amazon and what happened to one of the businesses, and also to someone I know, is that the counterfeit, which was underselling her product, became the top listing. And even though Amazon was notified, it took a lawyer to get the person's listing back, and counterfeiting is a huge issue, and Amazon doesn't do a damn thing about it. But this is like, remember like a million years ago when everybody was complaining that Walmart was going to put all the mom and pop businesses out of business in all the small towns? Well, guess what? They did. So, this is a cautionary tale, really, I think.
I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent about it.
Well, I mean, I'm not telling you that I don't shop there, but before I go to Amazon, I look everywhere else first. And the thing that gets me on Amazon is the free shipping. I'm not going to pay you $8 to ship me something Amazon will ship me for $100 a year for free.
So and all the content and everything else. So this is a story from The Verge. Sean Hollister reports that so like 3.5 years ago, he had written an article about these Logitech dongle things. So you get a wireless mouse, like the one that I've got, wireless keyboard, like the one that I've got. And they all come with these little USB plug-in things to make them wireless. These little USB dongles. It is these USB dongles that are insecure. So 3.5 years ago, this guy was writing about these and how they were eminently hackable. He had a programmer basically hack into it with a few lines of code and start typing things that appeared on his own screen. He could have wiped the hard drive, installed malware, done whatever. And so he figured, writing this in a major magazine or major publication would tip off Logitech about their problem. They'd get it fixed. Apparently not. So he's rewriting about it. And if you have a wireless Logitech mouse, keyboard, or presentation clicker, you should probably patch it now. And then he says again, maybe again in August too, when Logitech will be rolling out some additional fixes. So we'll put a link to in the show notes to where you can download the drivers and everything and get that stuff up to date. Who thinks about updating your USB wireless thing, right?
You wouldn't. You don't get that with Apple, though.
Yeah, well, Apple's got its own problems.
I guess so. Does that bring us? I'm buying a new computer, and it's going to be Apple, because once you go Apple, you don't go back.
Exactly. That's lock in. Everybody has lock in, BL, not just Amazon.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But I mean, I for many years I used Dell and I used IBM computers, and in my opinion, they just don't compare.
Well, I will say this for Apple computers, they last longer than they don't slow down like PCs do, but they're a hell of a lot more expensive. And everything you buy for them are a hell of a lot more expensive. So
this computer I'm working on right now, 2011, and what I'm going to do with it, because I love it, because it's a MacBook Pro, I'm going to, when I get my new computer, I'm going to put a solid state drive in here, because my MacBook Pro has a headphone jack. The new ones don't, because it has you could put a CD in there, a CD drive, and because it has all these USB ports, and I can hardwire it to the internet. Do you know you can't hardwire the new Apple laptops to the internet? So I don't know how anybody can do a podcast with them. So I'm going to put a solid state hard drive in mine. So does that bring us to shiny objects?
It does. What do you got?
This is funny. This is a Chrome extension that's called Netflix at Work, and it's designed to make you look like you're in a conference call while you're watching Netflix. It fakes that you're in a conference call. It puts these pictures on the screen, but they're, like if you wanted to watch Stranger Things, the characters would be in individual windows, like they're on a conference call with you. It's available in the Chrome store. It's from a story in The Verge, by the way. It's called Netflix Hangouts, and it's Google Slack Off.
So just make sure your boss doesn't like Stranger Things or whatever.
Right, to recognize it, right.
Yeah, so you've been watching Stranger Things, I assume?
Halfway through, yeah.
I watched the latest season. I'm done with it. I came to the conclusion that I love Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things, not in the least of which because it's nostalgic. It brings me back to, has all these cultural references from the 70s and 80s. And those are great. They get so many of them so perfectly. But one thing that they get blindingly wrong is that it's set in Indiana, small town Indiana, and black children growing up in Indiana in the 70s and the 80s, not once experiencing discrimination.
That's true.
That's obviously something they should have addressed in the show, and they have not. So
But what I've seen so far is really great.
Yeah. It's a good show. So, speaking of cultural references, I have a cool tool here called Add Letters. It is a sign generator, and you can create your own messages and memes with various backgrounds. So there's a refrigerator magnet letters that you can create a message on a refrigerator using the refrigerator magnets. You can generate your own newspaper headline, write graffiti on a brick wall with your own message, do a ransom note generator, warning sign generator, and there's TV and movie caption generators. And I used, of course, the Bart Simpson chalkboard generator, in which I had Bart writing, "I will not miss an episode of the Beyond Social Media show," of course.
I love that.
And do you have another one?
I do not.
I got one more. And this is in episode 188. I discussed Brackets, which is a code editing software that's fabulous. I use it all the time. And so there's a extension for that called Surround for Brackets. And if you're coding, you'll often, so in HTML, for instance, there are nested codes. So you'll open up a paragraph here and have a bunch of stuff in there and end a paragraph there. There's 2 bits of codes, and you have to encase a bunch of stuff in those code brackets. So this is Surround for Brackets, where you can just highlight a chunk of code and easily put in 2 brackets at the beginning and ending of that chunk of code that you've highlighted. Beautiful time-saving piece of extension software for your code your brackets if you use it.
Cool. So I wanted to add a quote of the week section to the show, and this one just makes me laugh. This was a tweet by somebody goes by Lee Clow's Beard, and anybody who's ever worked with a big company will, as an agency, will appreciate this. "Dearest procurement department, we can cut 20% off our fee by simply ignoring your paperwork. Love, LCB." I thought that was hilarious.
Oh. All right. Politics.
I don't have any. Go ahead.
I have one. And so we have a report. We have talked about the problem with the Mueller report being that normal people won't read it. Last episode, we discussed the dramatic reading of some top Hollywood talent to make it easier for people to consume the report. So here's another angle. This is the website The Insider hired Mark Bowden to use the interviews and facts in the Mueller report, as well as rather reliable fact-check sources and published firsthand accounts to tell a story that is gripping, that will hold your attention, because Bowden is a journalist. He's the author of books like Black Hawk Down, Killing Pablo, and Hugh 1968. Black Hawk Down, in fact, was originally published online by the Philadelphia Inquirer when Bowden was a journalist there as an experiment in hypertext storytelling. So early on in the web, they published the Black Hawk Down outline, which became a book and then became the movie. But its first incarnation was online as an experiment in hypertext storytelling. So everything within it would have been a cluster today, because there's hyperlinks everywhere. But the hyperlinks all led to deeper and deeper information about the story. So it was really, really innovative at its time. The Insider also hired Chad Hurd, who was an illustrator from the art department of the show Archer. So he would draw out scenes of the report to bring to light. The effect is really compelling, and it reads and looks a little bit like a graphic novel. It's on one web page. It's easily digestible. You can read it. It's like a page turner of one web page. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can see.
Wow! And then next week comes Mueller's testimony, which is really cool. Yeah.
For a week though too, so
yeah, it keeps getting put off, but we could talk at great length about what's going on in Washington, but let's not. I mean, really, the way that Twitter is being used by the president is abhorrent, absolutely abhorrent, and I think that Twitter seriously needs to consider not allowing it to continue. We'll see what happens.
Well, he does break their terms of service from the
Every
beginning.
day, and today was the worst ever. But today he actually called out the congresswomen, the new congresswomen of color, and told them to go back to the countries they came from. I mean, it's disgusting. But anyway, I do have a Google My Business tip that I mentioned before. You can now add videos, and those videos can be up to 30 seconds long, up to 100 millibytes in size, and they have to be 720p or higher. And you need to make sure that your video is taken at your place of work and that it relates to your business. Otherwise, Google will summarily remove it. You can also add videos to your posts, and optimizing your Google My Business is such a simple process, and yet so many local businesses overlook it. So as you explained earlier, you just simply have to take another look.
Yes, indeed. I get a pro tip. This is for email list growth pro tip. So I have my monthly eStrategy Trends newsletter, and this past edition, I had over 300 marketing reports, surveys, and polls that I included in the report. So I'm trying to build using a new tactic to build the list for that newsletter by writing a blog post that is targeting the phrase market research newsletter. And so there are 16, I included in this post 16 market research newsletters with the best, counting down from 16 to 1. So as you read the page, 16 is the first one and 1 is the last one, and it goes numerically through you're distracting me, BL, through the newsletters, with number 1, of course, being my newsletter. So the psychological trick there is that people are going to scroll down to the bottom because they want to find out which one's the best. And of course, mine is the best, which follows with a call to action.
Oh, we just lost
15 newsletters. Instead of subscribing to 15 newsletters, you can just subscribe to mine and get all of this stuff in a monthly roundup. The call to action is a red button that stands out from the page, and it takes you to a newsletter squeeze page that just asks for your name and email address. And after you subscribe, you go to a confirmation page with a background photo of a woman reading a book, and it asks, "Do you feel smarter?" Because that's the point of the newsletter. And then it includes below that the most recently published newsletter. So people who aren't going to receive it, if you subscribe at the beginning of the month, you will have to wait a month till you get the next newsletter. You can see the most recently published one, as well as the most recent published post on my blog. And the point of that is that it keeps people longer on the site. It increases the time on site metric, increases the engagement of more content on my pages, and that activity connected to the subscribing of the newsletter is the signal to Google that the newsletter is high quality, which is likely to help boost visibility both in Google search as well as within Gmail's inboxes for people that subscribe. So there's a sort of long-winded pro tip for y'all.
Well, I can certainly say, this is Lucy, I can certainly say that your newsletter is terrific and I would not miss it. This is my new rescue puppy. This is Lucy Ochman. Isn't she cute?
Cute. You can see the top of her head, though.
Oh, too bad. Anyway, she has one ear that goes up and one ear that goes down when she wants it to. So that brings us to the end of episode 275.
No,
it doesn't?
No, it doesn't. Don't be shortchanging me on the daily numbers, BL.
Oh my God, how could I do that? Go ahead, Dave.
We have this week we have food delivery app users. So this is the number of people who are using food delivery apps in the U.S. BL, do you use a food delivery app?
I do. I use delivery.com and I use Seamless.
I haven't heard any of those. So no Grubhub?
I haven't used Grubhub, and apparently delivery.com is rolling out across the country this summer, so you will hear about it. They're rolling out in something like 60 more cities.
All right. So in 2018, there were 31.4 million U.S. smartphone users who are using food delivery app. This year, that's expected to rise to 38 million. Next year, it's supposed to rise to 44.1. And by 2030, not 2030, 2023, it will rise to 59.5 million. So they're fast becoming popular options for getting food delivered to your house.
Well, I'll show you more of Lucy. This is my pup. Can you see her now?
Very cute. Up here.
I rescued her only Friday, so the whole thing is very new. But that does bring us to the end of episode 275 of the Beyond Social Media Show. You can find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show. You can talk to your Google Home, who's spying on you all the time, and say, find Beyond Social Media Show. You can find links to everything we talked about at beyondsocialmediashow.com/275. And I am here with the always charming David Erickson, who is on Twitter as D. Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson, or as I like to call him, Dear Erickson. He's on YouTube as eStrategy, and his blog is eStrategy Blog, and also eStrategy Trends, right, Dave?
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm BL Ochman. I'm on Twitter as What's Next. I blog at What's Next Blog. I'm on YouTube as What's Next Blog. My business site is blochman.com. And the show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com. And on Twitter, you'll find us at bsmediashow.com. And we will be back next week. And we thank you for watching tonight.
Thanks for watching.